meditate, ruminate, settle in, and kind of wade through this image. And let's talk about it in a minute. This is the story of black folks in America, and the story of America, and the story of black folks in America and America intertwined. And I think the best way to tell you this story is to start with something happened to me in 5th grade. I went to Stanley Elementary School on Hilltop, and Mr. Morrison, my teacher, had a rule that on Valentine's Day, everybody got a Valentine's Day card. And so we could only have a card if everybody got one. And there was a girl named Cheyenne, and of course her name was Cheyenne. And she gave me a card, and it said, "Happy Valentine's Day, Niger." Now, I say Niger because she wasn't smart enough to spell it right, but she said Niger. And so, like, that experience, I was very upset by that. And I went home, I told my uncle about it, and my uncle sat me down and told me the history I'm gonna tell y'all today. And he was like, "What is Cheyenne's last name?" And I'm like, Poldowski? He's like, "That's Polish. That means that her family did not arrive in the United States until like the 1930s. And I'm like, okay. Well, when did we get here, Uncle? And he laid it out for me and told me the story of my people and our people. And the idea that before there was an America, before the Constitution, before the Bill of Rights, before the Articles of Confederation, there was black folks toiling. And so the history of black America and black Americans is older than the history of America. There were black folks on this land working and living before this land was the United States. And so it was great for me. I went back to school the next day and saw Cheyenne, and I was like, "Cheyenne, how you doing?" She's like, and I'm like, "Cheyenne, go back to Poland, we don't stay." I tell that story because the history doesn't get told. And Juneteenth, if you don't know the history of Juneteenth, is a really, really special day, but is also indicative of like the information gaps that exist in societies. And frankly, the story of Juneteenth is really appropriate today in 2019 because it's demonstrative of what can happen with information when you keep people ignorant. So the story of Juneteenth, if you don't know, is that Juneteenth is the day that black slaves in Texas got word that they'd been emancipated almost a year prior. That's Juneteenth. And so folks was free, but didn't know they were free because they weren't told they were free. And they weren't told they were free intentionally. And that's the story of Juneteenth. And so like, I just want to just kind of lay out for you like how integral slavery and how integral bondage is to American history and why Juneteenth is so important. Like to me, take your 4th of July, miss me, on my fireworks, no way, okay? Take Memorial Day, I like a good sale, but I want to talk about Juneteenth and Emancipation Day as holidays in America, because those are days when we actually made this country whole and made this contract whole. The institution of slavery is one of the most pernicious institutions in American history, and it's really funny to listen to folks talk about the Civil War who have no understanding about the Civil War. And in fact, here's a quiz, y'all. What was the issue that caused the Civil War? Say slavery. You are correct. Good job. But when you say that to folks, they're like, "Oh, it's about states' rights." I'm like, "States' rights to own slaves, fool." And I actually want to read to you a speech that Alexander Stephens, the Vice President of the Confederacy, gave called the Cornerstone Speech. Now, for context, Alexander Stephens was clapping back and forth with abolitionists and talking about Madison and our Constitution idea of liberty. And so Stephens says, and I quote, "Our new government," referring to the Confederacy, "is founded upon exactly the opposite idea. The opposite idea being that all men are created equal, by the way. Its foundations are laid and its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition. This is our new government. It is the first in the history of this world based upon this great physical, philosophical, and moral truth. This truth has been slow in the process of its development, like all other truths in the various departments of science. It has been so amongst us. Many who hear me perhaps can recollect well that this truth is not generally admitted, even within their day. The errors of the past generation will cling to many as late as 20 years ago. Those at the North who still cling to these errors with a zeal above knowledge, we justly denominate as fanatics. All fanaticism springs from an aberration of the mind, from the defect in reasoning. It is a species of insanity. One of the most striking characteristics of insanity in many instances is forming correct conclusions from fancied or erroneous premises. So with the anti-slavery fanatics, their conclusions are right if their premises were. They assume that the Negro is equal, and hence conclude that he is entitled to equal privileges and rights with the white man. If their premises were correct, their conclusions would be logical and just, but their premise being wrong, their whole argument fails. This ain't some fringe figure. This ain't some nobody on the street. This is the vice president of the Confederacy saying what the Confederacy was all about and what their Constitution was all about, and this is the argument that they made to hold folks in bondage. That's what Juneteenth is about. Juneteenth is about liberation from this ideology. It's about liberation from this way of thought. It's about liberation from this backward way of view into what America should be. Speaking about what America should be, I just want to read to you what to me is one of the greatest political documents in American history, and frankly, world history. And it's something that I aspire to. I start my class, my government class, by reading this document and talking about it, and it's the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, Section 1. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the most solemn promise that any group of human beings has ever made to another. And America does not live up to it, but it's aspirational. It's my goal that one day in my lifetime, we can live up to this document. So, U.S. Constitution, 14th Amendment, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any persons of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That's a word, y'all. That is the promise. And there's lots of folks walking around America today talking about how much they love the Constitution, but don't know the Constitution. That's America, and that's the promise. And so this Juneteenth, I'm excited to celebrate with you. I'm excited to hear from other folks, but that's the work ahead of us. No state shall. Not Washington, not Oregon, not Idaho, not Mississippi, not Alabama, not Arkansas. No state shall deprive people of life, liberty, and property without due process, and no state shall abridge the privileges and immunities of folks. The reason why I am in Tacoma, Washington is that America has not yet lived up to this document. My mother was born in El Dorado, Arkansas in 1940. My father was born in Lowell, Mississippi in 1930. There's a reason why I was born here and why I'm here today. And so I say to you, happy Juneteenth. This is a day of celebration, but also a day of challenge, so we got work to do. Thank you.